Welcome to your source for comic book news and culture. Variant Edition starts now. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
Every week, Variant Edition brings you the best that comics has to offer. It's a half hour full of news, reviews, interviews, and, well, basically anything we think is comic-related.
This week, we've got the usual reviews and a little mini discussion about 30 Days of Night, since most of us on the show saw it this weekend.
It's a good show, so while we're wasting time, let's just get on with it.
Alright guys, first review of the week right here. X-Men Emperor Vulcan issue 2. Now this storyline picks up, if you read X-Men Deadly Genesis and The Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire and Uncanny X-Men, you know that the Summers had, well, Cyclops and Havoc had a secret third brother called Vulcan, who was sent to the island of Krakoa back when, you know, that giant-sized X-Men issue came out long ago. So they have a third brother who has now claimed throne of the Shi'ar Empire. So this mini is pretty much picking up directly after Uncanny. So the new Starjammers, which consist of Havoc, Polaris, and Marvel Girl, along with some of the original members of Starjammers, are out trying to do dethrone Vulcan, and because he's just, you know, wreaking all kinds of havoc across the galaxy. So they're trying to, you know, take him out. The story's really good. The art's pretty strong, and I like the writing because it's very new reader friendly. Because if you don't know what happened, they kind of like jump in and like throw like little quick, not flashback moments, but like, you know, literally be like, you know, oh, this happened and this is where he came from, and such and such. So the dynamics of this team is really interesting because it's more space-oriented. This isn't your typical X-Men adventure because it's in outer space. This isn't on the ground. So you see Havoc really growing into the role of leader, you know, kind of like stepping up to Cyclops' plateau. And so there's also this big revelation in the book, which I'm not going to tell you. You got to read to find out, as to the M'Kraan crystal. The M'Kraan crystal, if I'm pronouncing it right, is what gave Professor X's powers back. Now, there's this whole big mystery as to who it actually really belongs to and what its intentions and uses are for. So that's up in the air right now, and I really like that. It's a big mystery. There's a whole other element coming into the story now besides, you know, the whole, you know, bad blood between Vulcan and the X-Men. There's like this whole another, you know, controversy and problem they got to deal with now on top of that. So there's also a really big alliance at the end that kind of catches you off guard. I wasn't expecting it. So this book is going to be a lot of fun because of 3 reasons. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of plot twists, and, you know, what you think is going to happen might not happen. So I highly recommend this book if you're an X fan, if you've been following X for the past, you know, 3-4 years. A lot of things going on in the X universe, you know, with, you know, endangered species, a psi complex, and the whole Vulcan problem. So I can't wait to see where this goes, and I hope you're enjoying it.
Umbrella Academy number 2 of 6. As if you guys have been paying attention, I do in fact like this book, and this issue kind of keeps it going and kind of gives them the new purpose. They've got 2 enemies in this book that are coming up. Well, the first one, which are the Terminauts, which are activated when the Umbrella Academy reforms its team. And for some reason, the Terminauts came back around and activated, even though the team's not reformed. But Spaceboy kind of has this whole thing after the fact, which is just simply like, well, according to the Terminauts, we're a team, so get ready to fight. Which is like, all right, that's cool. And at the same time, there's this other guy who's known as the conductor, not for trains, but for an orchestra. And he's writing a symphony that, when played properly, will destroy the entire world. Okay, Apocalypse Suite, I understand. That's nice. Characters development still going. Guy from the future explains why he's from the future now, that he was 10 when he went into the future, and he got really old in the future, but figured out how to time travel backwards instead of just forwards, and now he's 10 again. Little lost there, but I'm going with it because it's a comic. And the world's going to end in 4 days, so we got to stop it. Sweet. How could this comic get any better? Probably not. Enjoy it, sit back, read it, it's great, and it's got a great story, and there's little twists and turns as it goes.
Alright everybody, it's Creepy Comic Time with Terror Incorporated, issue number 3. Great selection that I've had, thanks to a suggestion by one of our viewers. Good call, Alex, because Terror Incorporated is awesome. Nothing short of great. Still, it's the big cursed kind of living corpse guy, not a zombie. He's just forever decaying, and his body's like a limb junkie. So anyway, issue 3, we got Mr. Terror, and he's still screwed up from issue 2. He's not himself. He's still looking for his arm. He's not right because that arm is pretty much like him. Without that, he's not quite himself, and he's still kind of having personality changes between him, the like wife beater that he stole the body from, and like all these other people that he's mixed with. Really great issue because is going down. Not only did last issue they try to get rid of the guy by dousing his body in acid and dumping him down the drain, that don't stop him. He'll come back in frog form. And he keeps going. And all it is him trying to get his arm, because the arm is all that he has of himself and his long-lost love from, like, centuries ago. Anyway, you find out that there's other people involved with this that are trying to, like, kill this guy because they believe that this one woman that they worship who lives forever is gonna, like, save them or some junk like this. And it's this chick in, like, the world's biggest, most powerful iron lung. Because her body sucks, but she lives forever. Ironic? Maybe. Anyway, he's trying to get through all this crap and finds out that, okay, I have to get to her to find out my arm and all this other junk. End of the issue, he comes to face with this chick in the iron lung, and when he finds out who she is, your jaw's gonna drop, just like the zombies. So definitely check out issue 3. I'm itching for issue 4, and if you haven't read it, definitely pick it up, because it's tits.
So, I just read the first issue of Marvel Zombies 2, and our Marvel Zombies are 40 years in the future, and I'm feeling a little disappointed. The story, you know, our Marvel Zombies are in the outskirts of the cosmos, and they realized, hey, we ate everything in the galaxy or whatever, and they're feeling a little bored, and they're like, let's go back to Earth. So, but as we thought, they ate everything on Earth and everywhere else, so I'm a little interested to see where this story is going to go. I mean, it's Robert Kirkman and Sean Phillips, great team. I'm sure the later issues will get better, but as a first issue, didn't really set up to grab my attention like the first issue of their first story arc did. But basically, they go back to Earth, and as you find out, back on Earth, they've been repopulating. Very, very small civilization, and the Acolytes from Magneto are one of the big gangs there now, and Black Panther, who is still alive, remember at the end of the first story arc, is actually, he's much older now, but he's the leader of the humans there, and they've been trying to regain a civilization and everything. Basically, the Acolytes want to get rid of Black Panther. They see him as old, and he doesn't see for the future and stuff like that, and they want to get rid of him. So basically, they set up this assassination thing. I'm going to leave it at that. Read the comic. I was a little disappointed, but I'm sure it's going to end up great, and check it out.
What If Planet Hulk? I love what if stories. They're just kind of like interesting turns on what could have happened if this happened instead of this. The first story is basically the more serious of the 3 that are in this book. It's what if instead of trying to throw the ship, he throws his queen wife and has her turn to stone midair so that she doesn't get killed in the blast, but he gets killed in the blast. What is she going to do? Well, she's pissed, so she goes to Earth and, you know, kicks Black Bolt's ass, first she takes all the energy, kicks Black Bolt's ass, and kind of obliterates everybody, and then builds a giant monument. Okay, so New York is still screwed in that version. Okay, whatever. And the second one is, what if he didn't veer off course and go to the planet of the Red King? What if he went to that place where there was going to be no outside forces to make the Hulk angry? Well, there is still an outside force because Bruce Banner doesn't like the Hulk and the Hulk doesn't like Bruce Banner, so they're constantly going at it, which leads to hilarity because, like, Bruce Banner decides to build a radio and the Hulk is like, radio smash. And then so Bruce Banner's like, oh, you think that's funny, dude? So he builds a giant catapult and launches himself at a mountain, and the Hulk wakes up. He's like, oh, stupid Banner. How do you like this one? So he puts him on a desert island, and then Bruce Banner's got to build a raft to get back. And they kind of draw a line through the sand and says, like, that's your side, this is my side. And he kind of ends up protecting this little group of things from these big group of things so that these little things evolve and become a peaceful society, and the Hulk is looked back on as a god. Okay, kind of cool. The third option is really short. It's 1 page, and it's amazing, and I'm not going to tell you about it. I want you to go out and read it, because it was hilarious, and you need to read it for yourself. Hulk What If? Planet Hulk What If, definitely pick it up.
Alright, I haven't been reviewing this for a while, but this issue was great, and the cover alone needs to be talked about. Welcome to Tranquility, issue number 11. I'm not even really sure where I left off on the last review that I had. I don't know if I went after, like, I did a big summary of, like, the first 8, 9 issues. Anyway, story's great. If you haven't read Welcome to Tranquility, definitely check it out. Very nostalgic, superheroes living in a town, retired, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get down to issue 11. All this crap's going on because the devil's come to town, and he's not looking for a soul to steal. He's looking for a graveyard to raise the dead in. And he does that with hilarious consequences, in my opinion, because they're goofy zombies. They're not Hollywood zombies. They're not like, brains and oh my god, and Rick, you lost your hand and all that stuff. It's just zombies, like, being nuts. I mean, Mr. Articulate, who died in the series, like, early on, comes back as a zombie, but still has his composure. Comes out of the grave, looks around, puts his flower on his thing, and goes off to get some fried chicken. Love the guy. And even when the zombies come into the restaurant, he fights them off with his badass cane sword and still being all like, man, chivalrous and all that jazz. The man. #1 in my book. But anyway, Devil's there because he's got this whole plan going on where he formed with these other 3 people who wanted to, like, you know, bring the dead and form this land over and hell on earth and all that shenanigans. And it's great. It's not really like I guess it is a big turning point because, you know, the dead are running through the town, and the town's pretty much overrun by that. Anyway, Coyote Kid makes a really badass appearance in this, trying to screw over the devil. He's got, like, this ivory bullet that he had blessed by priests, and they probably touched it inappropriately and all this other stuff. But, so yeah, fight the devil, and things don't really go well because he's the devil, and it's really kind of hard to beat him. That's pretty much it. Zombies, the devil being badass. Issue 12, I'm sure, is going to wrap this up because it seems like it's getting towards the end. They're kind of running out of zombies to kill. But anyway, if you haven't seen the cover, definitely check it out. If you're a zombie fan, if you're just a fan of good art, because Neil Googe really did a good job in this cover. It's a crap load of zombies, not, you know, crazy zombies, just like the undead. They're ghouls. And they're in front of the Chick-In-Go, which is kind of like a diner/KFC kind of thing. And they're just of zombies going nuts over fried chicken. There's one who's got like a whole chicken in his mouth, one dumping a bucket of like drumsticks over his head. It is awesome. The one zombie with the bucket over his head, I laugh every time I see it because his mouth has like this weird pose, and it's just, they're going nuts over fried chicken. So yeah, if anything, issue 11, best cover ever.
Alright guys, next issue of the week right here, Simon Dark #1. Now, hot on the rise, writer Steve Niles, besides having the #1 movie at the box office with 30 Days a Night, the big adaptation of his graphic novel, he's got a new book coming out, Simon Dark issue 1. Now, I like this book a lot because it takes place in Gotham City, it's in continuity, it's a real darker, much, you know, heavy, horrifying take on Gotham City. The art is very beautiful, very cold, it's really dark, and it's really nicely cinematically put together, because there's a couple breakdown scenes where he's fighting and, you know, stopping this guy from getting murdered by this weird cult, and it's just really graphic and disturbing, it just hits you to a point where it's like, wow, that's like kind of weird, sick, but amazing. So I like this book a lot. The story's about this one guy named Simon Dark, obviously. He doesn't know where he really came from, and he hides out in like what looks like to be like some kind of like sewer system or like underground basement of like the ruins of a church. So I like the book a lot. The writing is really intense. It's very mysterious. You can tell there's gonna be a lot in this book going on, a lot of plot twists and a lot of, you know, origin stuff being explored. And the artist in this book is really nice. It's really great. It's dark. When you look at Simon, because he's wearing this mask, you get the whole the little doll from the Saw movies feel, because it's like exactly that mask but with like more hair. And it's just like he's kind of got like the whole Freddy Krueger thing going with the striped shirt. So it's kind of funny at first, but it's kind of like, wow, that's really frightening and creepy. But it's like he's a hero, not in the sense of like superhero, just like a regular Joe who's doing good and just, you know, kind of wants everything to be normal, you know, doesn't want anything to get corrupted. So the book is really good. I highly recommend this book. I like the book a lot. I really can't see where this goes. And I met Steve. He's a super nice guy. And I know this book is going to be really tremendous and just as good as the movie was.
Alright, so the long-awaited 30 Days a Night movie finally came out this weekend. Us three have seen it. Mike saw it, but he decided to sit this little shenanigans out. So, I was kind of let down by the movie. Not as like, oh man, it's not exactly like the comic and blah, blah, blah. I'll get into that later. But, you two guys, like, really liked it. Especially you. But you like everything.
I don't like everything, but
you like Fantastic
I like
Four movies.
No, not the first one. I hated the first one, and I just liked the second one because it's
30 Days a Night?
And 30 Days a Night.
But anyway.
But anyway, this movie, I like this movie a lot because they didn't really stick to, like, hardcore original scripts, like the book itself. Of course, you have to alter things and, like, you know, mess with the ending a little bit to, like, to make it fit, you know, the audience. You know, a lot of people going into it, it's like, oh, it's a typical vampire movie. They don't know that this is a book or whatever. They have no idea it's based on a comic. They're just like, oh, it's a vampire movie. Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
So, of course, they got to make things, like, a little different and take a different approach to it. And that's what I liked about it. Like, the ending was pretty fit because this guy cared more about his town. Forget the whole lovey deal. He's like, yeah, I care about my wife. No, they're like in a really rocky relationship. He's like, I care about my townspeople and my town, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay, so it's kind of like the end of the comic. Eddie, what do you think about it?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I only had minor problems with it. I didn't really... I don't know what to think about the ending, but I really loved the shots in the movie. I thought the shots were really well done, and the music was
like that
really
whole
good.
bird's eye view of the massacre.
It was just
Good
awesome. There's this one shot. It's just an overhead shot of the town, and there's blood everywhere, and you see vampires running at everybody, and it's just awesome. And I thought the music played really well into the horror effect, and I thought the vampires were pretty close to as much as you can to the comic.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to make live action Ben Temple
I
Smith
thought they were
art.
pretty badass. So
My one qualm with the vampires they were mouth breathers. We know the actors have like big goofy dentures to be like, I got badass vampire fangs, but not once did they close their mouths and breathe through their nose. And through 30 days, they didn't once lick their lips of the blood or like wipe their mouth or anything.
I guess it's like the more animalistic characters to get through in there. It's like, yeah, be real like
they were more
animal-like.
primitive
Yeah.
vampires.
Primitive vampires with a language and a hierarchy and snazzy clothes that put mine to shame. But anyway,
Well, they were in the
What?
21st century.
we're
Come
not
on.
going to go... But yet you're going into this primitive thing. We're not going to go into this. So you guys really liked it. I was kind of let down with some things. I do have to say, my favorite character, Grizzly Adams.
Oh,
Yeah.
The guy was like,
Batman
all right,
Begins.
we're gonna move from like this place to that place. So I got bear traps on my back. He looked like, you are afraid of the dark fans out there. Dr. Vink. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with the va, Dr. Vink. He was the man, and he was the man in this movie.
Yeah.
Say the best thing about him, his beard, bear traps.
Yeah, I think the casting was pretty dead on for the movie. No two big name celebs, and this wasn't like
Even
a Sin City. This was like a down to earth. This is a story.
And
I
even
think almost
Josh
real.
Hartnett was pretty good in
Yeah,
the
he
role
was
as
pretty
Eben.
good. But the best character in the movie had to be Ben Foster. Just the creepiest character in the movie,
Yeah.
and he's just a great character actor. I think, hands down, he stole the show.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're familiar with him, if you've seen 310 to Yuma, he played like that kind of like toady guy to Russell Crowe. And he's just like that character that you hate every second he's on the screen, but he's supposed to be that guy.
For all the X-Men fans, he was Archangel or Angel in X-Men 3.
X3, yeah.
So.
And he was in the Punisher movie too. The kid with the
Wow.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
couldn't even tell.
Yeah,
So apparently he's a big superhero fan because he's on all the movies. So.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so 30 Days a Night, you might like it, you might not. You might just leave and say, man,
I give it a 7 out of 10.
what do you give it, Lewis?
7, yeah.
I'd have
7,
to
8.
go more like a 4 or 5 out of 10. Yeah.
Really didn't like it.
Like, honestly, my thing is I left that there, I'm probably not going to buy the DVD, which says a lot because I really like the first story. Because, like I said in my post on the forum, it's way back in that wonderful time when Steve Niles could write a good story. So that's it for the 30 Days a Night review, and we'll
long,
catch you guys
everybody.
later.
See ya.
All right, so I set out the discussion for 30 Days a Night, and the guys missed a couple things, and that's okay. One of the first things I'd like to point out is that in an interview, Sam Raimi commented on how his vampires in this movie weren't going to be, when I say his, I mean Steve Niles' vampires. They're not the romantic interview with a vampire, like, oh, do you want to live forever? Because I'll suck your blood and make you one of me, and then we'll suck this little girl's blood. And no, it wasn't like that. It was like, they're animals, they're going to come at you full force, and they're just going to rip the town apart. And that was done well, I thought, from comic book to movie. They didn't mention the bird's eye view, but they forgot to mention that they were doing it with very subdued colors, the entire film. And I, for one, thought the pacing was really well, because when you do that with a movie, one of two things happens. One, you get really tired and you fall asleep, or two, you lose interest. I didn't lose interest once during this movie. I was focused on the story. It was very character-driven, even though not all of the development was there. The biggest difference from two of the biggest differences that I think is going to be a problem for the sequels to come, which I can only assume there's going to be sequels to come, doing is what they made. You missed D showing up at the end. For those of you who didn't read the comic, the D character shows up, who I'm assuming is Dracula, and kind of says, like, what did you guys do? You messed up everything. We've been hiding in the shadows for years. And they let the main vampire from the movie just kind of have that role, which I disagreed with. But it's a movie, I'll go with it, because there's just a whole new continuity to me. The second thing they missed, the voodoo camera recorder guy did not show up via helicopter to record, and evidence was found for these vampires that really do exist, and that tape is somewhere out there. And in later stories, I think that has a little bit to do with what happens. Also, I thought that there was only like 2 survivors, not 5, but that's just me nitpicking about comic book to movie form. Overall, I like this movie. If you had no idea that it was a comic book beforehand, like many of the people at the movie theater that I was with, didn't know it was a comic book, they enjoyed it. They thought it was great. The 2 people who did read the comic book that I actually talked to afterwards, they enjoyed this adaptation of it, and I gotta say, I'm with it too. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 as far as comic book movie goes.
Unmen issue 3, set in the freakiest place on Earth. And this has got to be the freakiest comic on the shelf, because I'm still like, what with each page? There's so much going on in this, and I'm really hoping that the mystery is going to, like, unfold in the end, because now, like, bad guys teaming up with kind of the good guy, like the guy that you're rooting for, the albino, people killing people you didn't think would kill because something's possessing them, you don't know what, everybody's trying to find it out, and the readers just scratching their head, and the only thing I want to know is Kane alive? Kane's apparently like this old freak that all these, like, bottom dwellers worship, and they feel that he's alive and gonna, like, you know, save them from all this crap that's going on and save them from the unmen, all these, like, man-made freaks and all this jazz. And the main scientist, the brain hand guy, he doesn't know what's going on because he's seeing, you know, how his Ren murdered somebody, but it wasn't her doing it, it was just her body doing it. So now he's kind of teaming up with the albino who was there to investigate the murder of the Gillmen in the first place on what the hell is going on. I'm kind of going around in circles like a carousel, no pun intended, but the story's holding me on, and I want to see more freaks, and I want to see where this is going. If you like freaks, murder mysteries, this book, definitely for you. Issue 3 is out. Issue 1 and 2 were also good reads. Looking forward to see where issue 4 and 5 are going, and I really hope they start tying things up, because really, I'm getting kind of lost. But great read, very suspenseful, on the edge, want to know what's going to happen next, who's killing who's going to die, what freaks are going to be made, I want to see more lobster men. But that's just me. So if you want some weird, crazy shit, Unmen, check it out.
Wraith, number 404. Possibly one of the only good things that come out of that short story arc that I'm not going to even... it's Annihilation, I'll tell you the name of it. Anyway, what we got is the Wraith, who is a man without a planet, used to be a Kree, now he's more unconscious soul taken over by these parasite symbiote things that kind of give him powers, at least that's the way I'm taking it, and a weapon that can change form. Okay, cool. We left off, and a Super Skrull and him could get the scientists, so now they know what the plan is for what the Phalanx is going to do to destroy the galaxy. And, yeah, the Wraith finds out that their supreme weapon is the Supremer, and that's going to destroy all of the Kree race at one time by assimilating them to the Phalanx. Okay, but the Supremer actually uses his soul and gives it to the Wraith and saves the day by destroying all the Phalanx, but the day is not really saved because there's a bigger war to come. So I guess they're going to do a sequel off of this book. Looking forward to it. I think the Wraith is a really interesting character, and the fact that he's not telling anybody that he has the Supremer God's soul in him now is going to lead to an interesting, like, maybe he betrayed them sort of storyline. So I'm looking forward to it. Great series run. Pick it up. It's a fun book to read. And the art's cool.
Alright, it's been quite a while since we've seen an actual issue of Elephantmen since the amazing Elephantmen hardcover graphic novel came out, which, if you haven't picked it up, definitely do. If you've been interested about Elephantmen, very well done hardcover graphic, reasonably priced, beautifully done. Anyway, issue 11. Issue 10 was amazing, and issue 11 is no different. Elephantmen, great story. Where we are now... I haven't really been so into the past of Elephantmen. Concrete Jungle, I was actually reading, like, the first couple pages before I started this review, and I'm like, oh, these characters are already in this story. But for people reading Elephantmen, there's kind of a new introduction of Serengeti, who's kind of like this big-time drug lord in Mystery City, who's also Sahara's father, and was also involved with a lot of military crap because he came from, like, Africa when the wars were going on. And all that other stuff. They give you a nice little summary of his background, which is really cool how it goes from, like, this guy who was just a nameless man who was, like, a pawn in everybody else's game to becoming, like, top of the pile when it became to importance. Another great thing about Serengeti, it's Sahara's father. And they show, like, what a dick he was to her when he was her dad. Like, she's a little kid and he's like, your mother died when she gave birth to you, and I wanted a son, and now I got you, and I'll never have an heir, and blah, 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 blah. All that crap. Guy's a prick. He'd probably be, you know, taken away by the cops or whatever. Anyway, didn't happen like that because he's kind of numero uno at that point. But it's really cool to see Sahara as a young girl compared to how she is now, like a very powerful, self-important woman, like to the extent like she knows her abilities and like wants to take that and like help everybody else and all that other crap. Plus the involvement of her with Obadiah Horn, it's very interesting to see how she was as a kid, being, mistreated by her father and all that other stuff, and yet she's so, like, optimistic and hopeful. Why she's like that, I'll never know. I mean, I'm never like that. And at the end of this, it's just great because Serengeti's just like drug lord. He's beating up one of the warthog guys, killing him and all this crap because he didn't want to do something for him. Great stuff. I'm just, Elephantmen, if you've been watching the show, love the series. Definitely check it out. Issue 11's great. Can't wait to read issue 12. Alright, that's it for Variant Edition.
So if you've been paying attention, we fell a little behind. Then, in the fine tradition of Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead, we hit you with 3 episodes, one right after the other.
Nice Kirkman reference. We like to have a week between episodes, but after our slump, we thought it better to get them out.
And of course, with any luck, the next few months should be back onto a weekly schedule.
Yeah, and speaking of returns, we've got the return of Variant Edition, The Discussion, next week.
We sat down and asked the question, are comics too expensive?
Short answer, yes. The long answer, check out Variant Edition, The Discussion, and see what we had to say.
Remember, there are quite a few ways to get your Variant Edition fix. You've got iTunes, Vimeo, YouTube, Google Video, or you can get a sweet high-res feed from Blip TV, and if you want the easiest way to access this show, just go to variantedition.com and watch us on our page.
Yeah, and check out the Sponsor Us link in variantedition.com to see how you can get one of these cool t-shirts.
And while you're at our page, keep your eyes open for some new editions, exclusive only to variantedition.com.
That's right.
They've slowly been popping up onto the site.
If you keep your eyes peeled. But that's it for Variant Edition. Stop watching us, and stay on the page that you're watching this on, and check out that new stuff. So, we'll see you next time.
Bye. Welcome to Variant Edition, your source for comic book news and culture. This week, Variant Edition Tuesdays. Every week, Variant Edition brings you the latest headlines in the world of comics and a sneak peek at what comics you shouldn't miss on Wednesday. On when I cannot read this now.